Hello, I'm Huscho, host of Let's H, and I'm here to talk about a potentially controversial subject. But of course, if you know me, and if you know Caleb Cat, or if you know any of our people that do bad fanfiction theatre, Red Knot, or whatever, you know that sometimes we talk about subjects that could be considered controversial to some. It doesn't make them bad subjects, and it is a learning experience usually, sometimes for those of us having the conversation. One of the most important things that I learned growing up is that sometimes you have to get outside of your comfort zone and look at things in order to change and become a better person, in order to grow, in order to mature. If all we ever do is sit inside our comfortable boxes, where nothing ever challenges us, nothing ever upsets us, or nothing is ever different from how we believe it to be, then how do we change? What do we even become? We become stagnant. It's often been said that perfection is just stagnation with good PR, which is pretty true. And to be honest, none of these people, myself included, and you too, are perfect. You can't just sit there and think, yeah, I'm pretty much perfect. I'm pretty much the be-all and end-all. I don't need to learn anything or develop as a person. This is a problem too, as you may know from some of my criticisms of stories and television shows and films. If characters never develop and never become organically better people, or even worse people, then what investment do you really have in the story? But this is real life. This is your life. You should have a significant investment in your life. And I feel like it's also something that you should care about, being a better person. Accordingly, I'm talking about infantilization. And no, I'm not talking about kink infantilization. I'm talking about the distressing trend in this world. It seems like so many people with power, authority, some sort of influence, it is appreciably to their advantage that people become more infantilized, treated like dependent children, to have their every move scrutinized, criticized, and limited. Obviously, being someone that works in entertainment intended for adults, I don't think much of this. Pretty much all of my audience are adults. I intend for everything I do to be for adults, and I should have the right to do that. Part of freedom of expression includes the ability to express oneself in ways that others might find controversial, objectionable, or outright wrong. But what I find objectionable is not the same thing that you will find objectionable, and it's also not the same thing that, for example, Caleb Cat would find objectionable. But the thing is, nobody is forcing anyone to consume all of this entertainment. Entertainment is largely for consumption. It is often artistic, or at least there are artistic qualities to it. It is unquestionably creative in a number of ways, most of which the general public just don't realize exactly how much creativity and how much work goes into entertainment. But it's a lot. People also seem not to realize how work actually works. The increased infantilization of people in general has led to a prison-like environment for schools and something very similar for most jobs. This is not acceptable. A job is you trading your time and expertise, your effort for the tasks that they set before you and require for you to do, in exchange for their money. They should not be regarded as some sort of generous benefactor, nor should they be regarded as some kind of a glorified hostage situation. You can get other jobs. They should not be able to present themselves as the be-all and end-all, and if you get fired there, or if you get dismissed, or if you decide to quit, oh, you'll never get another job in this field again. No. People take jobs for money. They exchange their time and expertise in exchange for money. The reason why I mention this is because oftentimes this whole thing gets complicated when money enters the picture, such as the recent YouTube controversy, which is bullshit. Their new terms and conditions are garbage, and I don't mind saying that. As Alpha Omega Sin mentioned in his video, just because you can do something doesn't mean you need to do that or that it's a good idea. It's like the saying goes, we thought about whether or not we could do something without thinking about whether or not we should do it. This reaction to basically the entire internet and the general public saying, hey, the way that you're doing the content flagging and the monetization and the reporting is wrong, to react this way to that by limiting people more and making them basically dumb it down to the Bozo the Clown show. And to be honest, I don't think Bozo the Clown would actually go with these new guidelines without being reported, just so it's advertiser friendly. What the fuck does that even mean? It's a meaningless term anyway. It's like family friendly. Ex-friendly terminology is basically just saying dumb it down so that it's absolutely inoffensive to single-celled organisms, because if somebody complains about it, we're gonna fuck it up. Great, wonderful, great idea. Way to alienate your entire user base. And before anybody says, well, you're making money off the monetization of these videos, first off, not much. Second, you're thinking about this in the wrong way. What the increased infantilization of the world has done has made a lot of people drink the Kool-Aid, basically. When money comes into it, they think they're supposed to be subservient and grateful for everything that they have, because apparently they think that giving money to someone means being able to control everything they do. It doesn't. This would be like a jelly shop deciding to set unacceptable terms for the work of the person that makes the jelly. Said jelly maker decides, no, that's not acceptable, and refuses to sell them any more jelly. The shop has to close because they rely on other people's craftsmanship to keep their shop open. They don't actually make anything there. This is pretty much exactly the same situation. Everything on YouTube is made by people other than YouTube. That's what's allowed them to increasingly automate the site. They don't really have to do much work on the site. That's probably the reason why they bought it. They thought they could be lazy, and to be honest, they're making more work for themselves when they don't really need to do that. They're only doing it, and they only think they can get away with it because they're the biggest and the most well-known. But that's also biting them in the ass here, because since they are so high profile, a lot of people know about this, and a lot of people are pissed off. YouTube, through the years, has made huge, powerful enemies of very popular internet personalities. Like it or not, entertainment is shifting to the internet. Television is going out. By the time the next couple of generations reach the point where we are now, television will probably become a thing of the past, at least in the way that we know it today. They're trying very hard to make the internet into a throwback of what television was years ago. And one of the worst things that they keep trying to do with the internet is they keep trying to restrict more and more what content we can even put on various websites. And it's not for any good or valid reason. Most of the time, it's just because they want to be assholes or they can't be bothered to think of their own terms of service. As I've said many times before, I take great exception with content for adults being basically thrown in with illegal content, hate speech, terrorism, and all these other things. That's bullshit. Just because we are adults, conversing as adults amongst ourselves, does not mean that this is anything wrong, illegal, immoral, obscene, anything like that. But it's always lumped into the same section in the terms of service, and that's for a reason. It's because they want people to conflate those things in their minds so that they associate them permanently. This isn't some sort of conspiracy theory, X-Files, Mulder, who says this was a motherfucker we're dealing with. This is reality. I am also a professional writer. I know how these things go, and I know why they do the things they do. This is for a good reason, and it's because they want to basically shape your thinking so that it won't occur to you that, hey, maybe this is trying to shift my thinking so that I agree with them, and don't actually think about the fact that maybe, just maybe, there's nothing wrong with adult content. And I really have a problem with that. I really don't like that. Speaking personally, my experience has been, well, basically like a barge of medical waste. Adult-oriented content creators are treated like a red-headed stepchild in most situations. Places feel like they can just boot us out unceremoniously without thinking of the massive amounts of work that we do to create content and make their sites popular. Which, yeah, does make them money, and this is bringing money into it. Freelance creative professionals are paid the lowest in history now, and that's a trend that I think needs to stop. We have the tools at our disposal to demand a more equal living, but people have to be willing to actually contribute to that. Patreon, for example, is a really great site, and it allows a lot of people to make their living doing something that they love, or maybe it's the only thing they can do, by everybody giving just a little. That's a great thing. However, companies like PayPal often make it very difficult, even if you're not doing anything wrong, even if you're not even doing anything against their terms of service, but especially if you're doing anything that's for adults only or even just mature. They've had lawsuit after lawsuit smacked into their faces, and they keep arrogantly putting their hands over their ears and saying la la la, not listening. This is part of freedom of expression, and when you become that big, when you become that well known, you have a responsibility. You can't just keep pushing the same bullshit, and you can't keep dodging the freedom of expression that is a foundation of this country. I should not have to go ridiculously out of my way to get money that is contributed to me or pledged to me or sent to me because you want to make it an issue. Because why? Because you want us to be infantilized. So funny thing, we have to be adults to use these services, yet we're expected not to be adults and in fact treated not as adults when we do. Something's wrong here. Something's not working out here. In any case, I would like to encourage everyone listening. You don't have to like me, you don't have to agree with me on everything, you don't have to believe everything I'm saying. Do the reading, do the research. You will find that everything I'm saying that is true is true. We all need to take a stand. We all need to let sites know, and businesses, and everything else for that matter. We need to let them know that we're not going to be infantilized. Don't keep shilling for people that don't care about you. Don't keep being a spokesperson for a company that will kick you to the curb the instant you do something that is outside of what they are willing to accept, or the moment when you say something that might be considered controversial. We're having dialogues here. Society is changing, hopefully for the better, and the only way to do that is to actually have the dialogues. No progress is ever going to be made by polite speech and avoiding anything that might be controversial to some people. It's a very subjective thing, controversy. And the wording is so vague, especially in these YouTube rules now, that it basically is the same thing as all of the no obscene content shit that I have a problem with. Obscenity is a vague thing in terms of dictionary definition and legally. Saying that something that's obscene is forbidden is not only a sad sort of cover your ass thing, but it's also a way of saying, if we just don't like it, we can say it's obscene and that's why we removed it and you can't do anything about it. It's about as much bullshit as anything else, and it's something that really needs to go away. So I'm asking you to spread the word. Don't let yourself be infantilized. Demand to be treated as an adult if you're expected to act as one. If we're supposed to be adults to use these services, if we're supposed to be adults to monetize our videos, if we're supposed to be adults to even sign up for memberships on these sites, treat us like fucking adults. We can curse, we can talk about controversial things, we can do whatever the fuck we want to within our rights in the law. You don't get to dictate that to us. And especially on sites where we provide all of the content to you, and you dole out a pittance to us in return. Your advertisers are not going to get our business, and they're not going to get any ad revenue either if we go away. And to be honest, they're not going to get our business anyway if you keep presenting yourself as being such a horrible Big Brother corporation. Google were supposed to not be evil, but they're being pretty fucking evil now. And you know, some people just throw up their hands and say, well, it's Google, there's nothing we can do. Listen, we made that company. Without us, they would not be much. And even if they have all these things now and all these toys and all this influence, that ain't gonna last without the support of the people that made it that way. YouTube is named YouTube because we all make up this site. Just like we make up the content for the majority of internet sites out there that have people participating in them. Social sites, by definition, are made by people being social, by society. If those sites are no longer used, they cease to have any practical function. Therefore, the power is in your hands. And it's in your hands with businesses too. Wherever you can, whenever you can, and I know it's difficult sometimes, speak out with your wallet. Don't shop at places that treat their employees terribly. Don't shop at places where you've worked and you know they're horrible. Don't encourage people to come by these places. Don't let yourself and your dignity be bought off by a bare pittance, because you're worth a lot more than that. And that's what I wanted to tell you today. You all, we all, are worth much more than this. And I will be damned if I will let that last inch be taken by advertiser-friendly bullshittery that was introduced not with any input from us, not with any contributions from the very people that are making all of the content, literally all of the content that makes up their site, and pretty much every other social site, but unilaterally decided without us. That's not okay, and I'm not going to accept that. Shape it up, YouTube, and the same goes for any other site that wants to try and infantilize people, but expects a lot more of them. I'm not your monkey, I'm not your bitch, I'm not your señorita, I'm not from your tribe. I'll see you next time. Bye.